Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Pete, Films and Stuff. We are back Saturday afternoon. We've got a lot to talk about.
Oh, you know it. I am so pumped. I'm so excited. Why don't you tell our listeners what we're talking about today?
Today we are talking about Season 3, Episode 10, the season finale of For All Mankind, titled Stranger in a Strange Land. And boy, have we called it, yeah?
Oh my God, we have nailed it.
We don't have to say, we don't have to spell out a spoiler alert today, even though there will be. Because if you've been listening to our podcast, you have heard for weeks and weeks how we have predicted, is that too strong of a word? Foreseen, anticipated, we saw it coming.
All of the above.
All of the above. And I feel very vindicated, but at the same time, not fully satisfied with some character behavior in this episode. What do you think?
I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. And it's because I think we're both unsatisfied for the same reason, which is to say that there were conclusions to some storylines, but perhaps not in a way that made us feel good about ourselves.
So we've really got, we've got two main storylines. We've got the storyline on Mars, where our team is trying to get a pregnant Kelly up to the Phoenix spacecraft before she gives birth on Mars, which apparently is not possible, maybe for some gravity or other issues. And then at NASA, on Earth, we've got basically three different storylines all colliding. NASA, of course, is trying to support the team on Mars to get some type of solution for Kelly. The Helios board is replacing Dev with Karen. And at the White House, Ellen, who has disclosed that she is gay, she's refusing to resign, and it seems that she has fired up the relationship with Pam again. Where do you want to begin with all this? If you remember season 1, the finale was Ellen and Deke replaced Ed on the Jamestown lunar base.
Well, just Ellen, right? Because Deke died.
Deke passed away.
That's right. That's right. So it was effectively the lone Jamestown caretaker in Ed handing it off to the lone caretaker in Ellen.
Yes. And I thought that was a powerful episode, but it didn't bring me to tears. I thought it was a good conclusion to the first season.
Yes.
The end of season 2 just made me a puddle of tears, where, of course, we have Trace, and we've got Gordo wrapped up in duct tape on the moon, saving at least everyone on the moon, but possibly all mankind from a nuclear meltdown, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was, I think, about as powerful a season finale as you can imagine. And now the season 3 finale, we've got a lot of characters who have been killed off, but I have to say I'm not entirely satisfied with the arc of a lot of things that have taken place. So I'm not sure where to start. Should we start on Mars and work our way?
Yeah, let's start
work
on
our
Mars
way down,
because I think that's where things, as normally Mars has been where things have been the spiciest, but I actually think it's the other way around in this this finale. So let's start on Mars and then trickle back down to Earth.
So everything that on Mars that's taking place, I've boiled it down to really two causes. Danny's meltdown, where he was just ignorant of what was happening when they were trying to drill for water, and the subsequent disaster, and Kelly's inability to control her thirst or hormones and getting pregnant, obviously on Mars, which creates all sorts of political complications seem to be the least of it. It's really health complications. And now because of these two characters, we've basically got the entire team stuck on the surface of Mars without any way to try to get off and back up to the Phoenix spacecraft. But there's really more than that. There's a time element because Kelly's apparently going into labor or about to go into labor, or if she doesn't go into labor, both her life and the child's life is going to be at risk. So they need to launch imminently. And that's kind of the two problems or the two events that have kind of caused all the problems that those folks on Mars are facing, right? They've got enough food, they've got enough water, they've got enough, everything else is actually okay for them. They just don't have a fast way to get off of Mars.
Yes, that's right. They made a point of saying that it would take 30 days or so to extract enough methane from the atmosphere to create the fuel they needed for Popeye, I guess their module that gets them from Helios to Mars.
Yep.
I don't know. Look, this story, I think the drama was nice, but I think the setup to the story was probably the weakest setup in the entire show. There's so many things that don't make sense about all of this, coupled with the fact that Kelly herself is quite possibly one of the least charismatic characters on the show.
Yeah, I have to say, you're really right about that. It takes a lot for a viewer to not feel any sympathy to a young pregnant woman, the father of whom has passed away, and she's experiencing a health scare for her and the baby. All those being said, that's like a ripe scenario for nothing but sympathy, and I have none for Kelly. I'm really, really angry at Kelly because it's so out of character for her to be the one person who's caused all this drama, right?
And it's hilarious because it was like the first or second episode of this season where she's the one, not arguing, but fighting her case with Danielle to get on this mission as to why she's the most appropriate. And yet, because of her, she's now put everybody else's life at risk.
Yep. And more to the point, the one thing that she's good at, which is growing food, is the thing that they're going to be missing now. And they need her food more than anything because, I mean, as this episode plays out, they say, look, we've got enough. I mean, Popeye crashes on re-entry, which they expected. And they said, hey, no one's going to be able to rescue us for 18 months.
Yes,
we've got a year and a half to survive on Mars with very, very little food. And she's the one person who's, let's call her the gardener. Without her, they're really in a bad place.
Again, the end result and the drama that causes is quite nice because it sets up a very precarious season 4 for the Martians.
Yeah.
But the steps that it took to get there, not my favorite. I don't know if I'd be on board if it had been any other character. And again, that just goes to show how much Kelly was a non-factor for me as a character.
Yeah. I think
for someone who's supposed to be this smart scientist, for someone who's supposed to be like super in control of herself, she's the one who basically she literally sleeps with the enemy. She endangers the mission, and she's the one who succumbs to her emotions the most out of all of them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, apart from Danny, and we'll get to him, I mean, it's really disappointing that Kelly, who is never terribly charismatic over the course of 2 seasons, right? Or 3 seasons, who is never charismatic, but the one thing she had for her was she was kind of the strong and steady one, and that's a very valuable role. For her to be now the one that, not without demonstrating any charisma or any real reason for this behavior, is the one now who's kind of causing all the drama. And the outcome is really kind of selfish, right? That everyone is now forced to stay on Mars for a year and a half, her poor father could have died trying to get her a rendezvous to the ship, right? I mean, it's really, really disappointing that this character, who I didn't have any emotional attachment to, is the one who's causing all this drama. It's not our job, or I think it's not going to be worthwhile to kind of go back and rewrite how this could have taken place. But I wish I felt more sympathy for Kelly. I wish that there was something else that made her appear more heroic, and I'd feel a lot better about this mission. It just doesn't sit with me, to be honest, the right way. There were shades in her launch, and we can get to that in terms of whether or not that was realistic or cool. It reminded me a lot of The Martian. Right?
Oh, absolutely. The ending of The Martian. I was just about to say the same, right? So I'm with you.
Kind of with a thin atmosphere. They just need to get to like a certain parabola in space, and then they just kind of like launch themselves. And
she's strapped to the front of literally on top of the ship.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the ending. I thought the ending of that arc was quite nice and, quite dramatic. And of course, in a season that's not really been known for great visual anything, this was a strong visual flair, right? To have literally a pregnant woman strapped to spaceship flying through the Martian atmosphere and then jettisoning off the ship and just barely making it to the space station. I thought that was wonderful. I really thought that was nice. I thought that was good. And again, in a show that's not known for its visual flair, it was a nice touch.
What I kind of would have liked to have seen, what I was thinking is what was wrong with the buildup was that I just found it so kind of cold and distant between Ed and Kelly, right? It still doesn't really seem like she's really his daughter. He just kind of says like, hey, kiddo, anything for you. Like, he's not helping her move like out of the dorm. Like he's launching his pregnant daughter into space. I kind of would have preferred that after she got pregnant, that their relationship was really strained, and Ed's like, man, I demanded better of you. You're the person who now put this at risk. You're a woman, and I wish he would have been like more angry at her. And then right before he took her up, they would have had like this really kind of emotional.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, Dad. I really messed this up for you. And then he breaks down and he's like, listen, I failed my first son. I was a jerk to him, and I don't want to be the same father to you.
I'm sorry I pushed it. Yes.
I don't want to be.
It could have been so emotional, and watch those two like tear up. Like, dude, you may never see your daughter again.
Yeah.
And from Kelly, your dad may not survive.
Yeah. And that would have actually raised the stakes because in that scene, there was at no point did I think that Ed was going to die. Even though they were like, no, it's going to be rough. You may not survive. And, but there was at no point did I think Ed was actually going to be in danger of dying. I thought the odds were very low, but had you had that emotional sequence...
It should have been Bruce Willis in Armageddon.
I should
have just been... Yes.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
So I think that played off a little bit wrong,
Yeah.
But anyway, that's that story. And now I guess the way that this is going to play out is Kelly's going to give birth on Phoenix.
Well, she already has, right? We see her cradling the baby.
So she already gives birth on Phoenix. I guess Phoenix is going to take her back to Earth.
That's right.
Or at least the moon and circle back or something. But
something. Yeah. Right? But what I do like is that by doing this, you automatically eliminate a plot contrivance for next season, which is to say, hey, if we defund NASA, which is what everyone was talking about over the last couple of episodes, that is no longer an option.
Yeah.
Right? Because now you have 9 cosmonauts, astronauts, and whatever the Koreans call themselves, stranded on Mars, and no government organization would be able to strand them without facing major repercussions. Yeah. Right?
In so fact, now, you're right. How did you like the opening scene of this episode where you show the background of this North Korean chap You know, the way that he kind of does the crash landing and just it looks like Tom Hanks, right? In Castaway kind of scene, right?
Yeah.
What did you make of it?
I liked it. I liked that it wasn't too long, but again, you know, and all credit to the showrunners. They do a good job with this. Yeah. They condensed a reasonably, not complicated, but a reasonably long time into a nice, like, montage almost of as to what happened and why he's there and what he's been doing since he's been up there.
Yeah. I thought it was also quite good, and it was pretty powerful to kind of see, you know, his loneliness and, you know, kind of the routine. You saw kind of the batteries die on his, you know, tape player, so he couldn't listen to music anymore. Obviously, at some point, he was going to be running out of food. There was practically no chance at all that he was ever going to be, you know, rescued. So you could see, you know, why he was, you know, ready to kind of throw in the towel. And I thought that scene where Danielle and, you know, her cosmonaut counterpart kind of met up with him, I thought that was actually like a pretty good scene and more or less kind of realistic about, you know, how something like that would happen. I thought it was kind of a little bit humorous, you know, when they tied him up and they brought him back, right? He didn't want to leave this post.
I will say, you know, we've got now a gun on Mars.
Yep.
Planted by Danielle and the cosmonaut, which I liked, right? By the way, I liked the fact that they both agreed with the tire iron. But now who's the prisoner, right?
Danny for sure is going to find this gun.
It seems like Chekhov's gun, which is to say, you know that's going to be a plot point in season 4.
Yeah.
Or at some point, Danny's going to find that gun. And obviously, because he's now in North Korean jail, for lack of a better phrase, he's going to lose his mind, right? Because he has no communications. He's going to see people once a month for supplies. So he's going to lose his mind. And at some point, he's going to find that gun because, of course, he is. And that means inevitably he's going to either try to storm the hab or something or the other, right? Yeah. Something's going to happen with that gun.
Do you think that's the right move to exile him to North Korea, basically?
I think that's the only reasonable move they had.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the right move. I don't know if it's the wrong move. But I think in terms of what Ed was saying is there is going to be a reckoning for this because, you know, you can't. I understand what you were saying that, you know, we can kind of blame Nick because he was the one left in charge. But at the end of the day, Danny does confess. He's like, listen, I turned off the comms. I didn't want to do this. I didn't know how to handle myself. And because of that, everything kind of went to pot, right? The entire Mars mission kind of went to pot because of that. If it weren't for that, we wouldn't be in this situation. So it's the most reasonable course of action.
It's a death sentence. And especially after Ed saw what his father Gordo went through.
Yeah.
It really seems like, I agree there's not a lot of options on Mars, right? And I agree, like, especially when you've got 9 people in such a small quarters, for sure, you know, the tension's just going to be terrible. But to exile him like that almost seems like a death sentence.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's going down Gordo's path without the heroic arc.
Yeah. So disappointing. I really want Danny to be, I mean, his brother will get to Earth is just such a screw up. I'd really like Danny to be, you know, like the Marine, you know, the strong one who's just got his shit together. And instead it's just issue after issue after issue with him. Super disappointing, you know?
It's just horrendous. And so going back to what we said earlier, so this plot point hasn't really been closed off neatly. It has been closed off, but not neatly. And I think this is why I felt a little bit of dissatisfaction. He finally admits to Ed, and in that moment where he's admitting to Ed, but when he's saying, look, it should be me who takes Kelly up there, I thought he was going to confess the whole thing. I thought it was going to be, look, it wasn't just
agree.
about the space mission. It was also me who slept with Karen.
Yep.
It was all of that.
Yes.
And he didn't do it. He didn't do it. And honestly, that's why I felt so dissatisfied with that. And the reason is, and again, we'll come back to that when we talk about Earth, is because that plot line is now kind of closed.
Should be.
It doesn't have the weight that it could have had your favorite character survived.
I have to say, I admire Danny for that a little bit. That's really creating an issue that would have been entirely unnecessary in any context, right? But so I agree with how he felt very guilty about the landslide and kind of wanted to make amends for it. And maybe that makes sense that he wanted to take Ed's place. I didn't actually think that was going to happen, even though he made a pretty good argument. Again, you could have gone with a little bit of like the Armageddon thing here, where he could have like pushed Ed into like a closet and locked the closet and said, hey, Kelly, like Ed's gone. I got to take you, or Ed told me to take yours, right? There could have been one of those Bruce Willis kind of last minute heroic type things where he could have done something like that. Notwithstanding.
But in that case, I would have imagined that they would have had to kill him on re-entry.
Yeah, I agree.
And we can't afford to do that because, again, your number one
we
gripe,
don't
which is
have
correct.
any people left in this show.
Although they did introduce the new Korean guy, right? So now we have a new crewman.
He doesn't speak English yet, though.
No, but like, for example, I like that introduction, right? With Ed, where he's like, oh, my little dumpling.
My good dumpling.
But I did like that. And so I thought that was a moment of hilarity, of levity in a show like this.
Yeah. Well played. Whoever wrote that, I think that's an all-time classic line, right? An all-time classic line.
So I thought that was done quite well. And it does allow us to introduce a new character without really removing others. And so I guess that's all it for Mars, right? Anything else I'm missing on Mars? No,
I mean, I think if we're looking at season 4, there's going to probably be a lot of Mars drama. A lot of it's probably going to be centered on Danny and, the pistol. I can only imagine Danny's going to go bad. It can't be that he goes good unless somehow he comes in and saves the day.
Saves the day with a pistol. Which, by the way, I don't understand. This is just a minor, plot hole, but you're wearing these giant spacesuit gloves. How do you fire a pistol?
Yeah, how do you fit your finger?
How do you fit your finger into the trigger guard? I mean, like, they've even gone out of their way to talk about how some of these suits are super bulky, you know? And it looked like a regular pistol. It didn't look like anything fancy. It didn't look like it was modified. Yeah. And as we predicted,
you can't even bend your arm to like get it to your head.
And as we predicted, the pistol was effectively there as,
a
modern day cyanide pill.
Yeah, but I guess it was meant to be used inside the capsule, right? I mean,
presumably.
So just in a wood box with a lock. I like it.
Yeah.
So Mars is gonna get spicy next year. I mean, but I think the nice takeaway is that Danielle is solid as a rock as always.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Ed is, still the old, seat of his pants kind of pilot, walks away from the plane crash, no big deal, a couple of bumps and bruises and he's okay. And that crew seems to be quite collegial. The Russian folks seem to be getting along. They've dropped all the other kind of, chest thumping and we're first or we should take the prominent role. That's a pretty good team right now.
What's his name? Kuznetsov or something? The leader, right?
Yeah.
There was a moment in my mind where I thought, oh my God, he's got the gun now. What if he tries to storm and keep the gun? But I'm glad they didn't do that. I'm really glad they didn't do that. I like the idea that he's just like, listen, we're part of the crew now. We're all working together as the same team. And so he and Danielle agreed to hide or, dig up that pistol. I like that.
Mars is the least dysfunctional place. Now we go to Earth, which is
the most dysfunctional place.
A cluster at all 3 levels. Where do you want to start? White House, Helios, NASA? I guess let's start at Helios or White House because...
Yeah, let's do Helios, White House, and then NASA, because NASA, I think, is where it gets really exciting.
Yeah. So I have to say I'm pretty satisfied with the wrap-up of Helios. I mean, you and I have never been Dev fans. And I have to say, I noticed something about Dev. Maybe you did as well. I'm not sure if this is intentional or the actor, but I thought that Dev's eyes were super bloodshot to the extent that I wasn't sure if that was like intentional or if that dude's on drugs or something, but his eyes looked really, really bloodshot. Did you notice?
I did not. Until you pointed that out to me, I did not. And I think that's probably, like, if that's a plot point, which again, I don't think it is, it's probably something that the writers have done or the showrunners have done.
But I mean, just to recap, so apparently Dev realizes that he's going to be replaced. He talks to Karen, and Karen, to her credit, I know you don't like to give Karen credit, but to her credit, she's straight up with Dev and says, actually, I'm going to replace you. And she's also pretty bold about it, saying, you know, it's not just because of the company. She's like, of course, I want it for me as well. Dev gives half passionate speech to, you know, his team saying, hey, let's leave. You know, we can build our own thing, build it better. Karen comes in, steals his thunder saying, yeah, how are you going to pay these people? And once it starts to be a money discussion, of course, you know, all the enthusiasm and support for Dev is out the window. And he's basically exposed as the emperor has no clothes. And basically it seems like no one's going to join his whatever he's got, right?
Yeah, but I imagine he's going to come back. I imagine he's going to come back in some way or form in season 4. I'm not 100% sure now. So there's two options, right?
Yeah.
Either he stays on as the head of Helios because the alternative is no longer available.
Yeah.
Or we see what happened now, and this is my segue into the White House part of the story. Ellen gets impeached, does not survive the vote of no confidence with the senators, and she goes into the private sector, something A, her father has always wanted her to do, and B, allows her to do something that keeps her hopes and dreams of the Mars mission alive.
All right, so let's break this down for Dev. I would say I don't have any enthusiasm for Dev coming back. He had a whole season and was given really a very, very good role. And I just don't find that there's any... he's not really like a compelling character. You know, he hasn't demonstrated really any charisma. He hasn't been conniving. He hasn't even been despicable enough, I think, to really justify being brought back. That role could have been played in so many ways. He could have been this black, turtleneck-wearing villain. He could have been a nerd.
I think that's where we're going to transition to. I think that's exactly why. I think he's played this super neutral. He's not been a good guy. He's not been a bad guy, or at least overtly, right? And to that extent, like, he's been profit-driven, but not really. We haven't really seen evidence of that. Yeah. He's kind of the guy who's like, you know, what's it called? You know, blue sky thinking.
Yeah.
Right? And I think what's going to happen now is he's going to go on a war path. And I think that he goes full evil. If he comes back, I think he goes full evil for season 4.
But what's full evil? Let's say he comes back. Let's say he shaves his head. He gets some private sector money or uses his own money. Yep. He starts a new company, right? And he's just a black turtleneck wearing, you know, asshole Elon Musk. What's he going to do? He's going to send a competing ship to Mars to pick up the team? No.
Not to pick up the team. That's the whole point.
Do what?
I think he goes to Mars to start mining and do all the things that they wanted to do. And he's like, hey, you guys are on your own. You do whatever the hell you want. I'm not even part of Helios anymore.
Maybe. I mean, is that an exciting storyline to you?
At this stage, no, only because we don't know where the rest of the chips are going to lie. Because we don't know anything about what happens in season 4, it's hard to slot that in now as to Dev.
Okay, if we're looking at the future of Helios, we only know one other Helios person, that's Bill. Do you think Bill's going to take over Helios?
No, he's an engineer. He's not management material. With all due respect.
Yeah. Do you think Alita would come and take over Helios?
No, because I think she's going to end up taking over NASA.
Okay. Do you think Ellen's going to take over Helios?
I think that's the most, of all the characters we are introduced to, assuming they don't introduce anyone new into the mix, Ellen is the strongest candidate.
Or Sergei?
Sergei is a very interesting proposition. So
Dark Horse? Dark Horse?
So this is where I was going towards it yesterday was, what if Sergei comes into play into NASA or into Helios and he becomes Margo's counterpart the other way around now, where they kind of basically switch places?
Oh man, that is brilliant.
Right?
That is really
where
good.
She has spent basically the entirety of season 3. How do I get my boyfriend or my wannabe boyfriend out of Moscow and into the US? And then at the very end, we learn she finally succeeds. She gets him out. He's at Ramstein base, and then he ends up in some white picket fence house in the US. Again, location undetermined.
Yeah.
And he ends up working for NASA and or Helios, whichever one it is. How do we, again, spoiler alert, but not really. We, the very final scene is we see Margo wake up, open the windows, and where is she? Moscow.
I think it's not unrealistic that he could be recruited to Helios. That would be a cool storyline.
Right.
I have to say, even though I don't find Sergei that interesting, maybe that's not a bad storyline for him to be now the head of Helios. And NASA's in disarray. He's like, hey, we're going to recapitalize. We've still got helium-3 we can monetize. We're going to repurpose a ship, and we're going to go pick up the team, right? Maybe that's not bad. Maybe that's not bad.
My thinking for this is, at this stage, I'm not really super concerned about what constitutes a good potential season 4 storyline and a bad one.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of, hey, Ethan and I have been hammering on about the fact that there aren't that many people on the show.
Yeah.
So how do we recycle the ones that we do have in new roles?
I agree. I mean, when you say it out loud, it makes sense. They've spent too much time and effort on Sergei just to leave him sitting in Ohio
somewhere. Yeah. It doesn't make sense at all, right?
Yeah.
It's a waste of season 2's exposure to Sergei and to Margo's motivations in season 3.
Yeah.
It's a complete waste of energy and time for him to then be kind of written off as, well, we've accomplished it.
Yeah. I mean, I really hope that if we're going to see more of Sergei and more Dev, I hope that that both characters demonstrate a little bit of character, because I really haven't seen anything from either one of them. They're just both kind of spineless, weak, unlikable, uncharismatic, haven't done anything good for anyone else. Dev especially, who started with like, when we were introduced to Dev, right? He was in Kenya, maybe, and it
was like the middle of the California desert somewhere where they were doing the ship testing, the rocket engine testing.
I think that Dev's been a huge disappointment to me. I really wanted
wasted opportunity.
Wasted opportunity. I really wanted him to be way more, not flamboyant, but again, Elon Musk-ish, Steve Jobs-ish, just someone who had more charisma, and maybe they were exposed kind of as, not as a fraud, but as someone who didn't have a lot of substance and was just a big talker. That would have been okay. But I found that Dev wasn't even like a strong character in terms of like his vision.
You see elements and you saw flashes of brilliance here and there, but not sustained, and certainly not for someone who would be in the position that
I agree. I think they didn't find the right positioning for him yet. Was he this eccentric visionary? Was he this, collective for the people kind of humble leader? Was he this brilliant technologist engineer? You know, I felt like every episode where we got like a little bit of prolonged exposure to him, it was always pivoting in terms of what he was, you know, and I never really found anything. And any of those would have been fine. I think they just should have embraced it, make him likable, not likable, but at least give me a stronger opinion of him.
Something.
You know?
And that's the same for Sergei. He had a little bit more character in season 2 when he's, you know, he started out as the antagonist.
Oh, I liked him as a bad guy. He was a better bad guy who was actually trying to manipulate Margo, right?
But again, you know, as we said, it would have been really good to see him do more spy stuff, like plant listening devices. Or plant like secret notes or something.
Photocopy papers and
something, you know, where like he pulls out this very quote unquote miniature camera and starts taking pictures off of Margo's desk.
I agree.
Something.
Yeah.
And then it would have been all the more of a coup for them to be able to turn him and bring him back to the US and make him an asset.
Absolutely agree. All right, that's Helios. Shall we turn to the White House and Ellen and what's going on here? Ellen's arc has been what now?
A bit meh. Yeah, a bit meh. And also, I think it's because they're saving this for season 4. You know how season 3 began with a montage of what happened in between season 2 and 3? I think they're saving Ellen's like finish or conclusion to that. Throughout this season, we see that she's been living a double life, or not a double life, but basically a lie, right? She's a lesbian married to a gay guy, and they're pretending to be this happily married couple with a kid. She's the new president of the United States. She's led the charge to, you know, a cleaner America, to a profitable NASA, etc. And then this, because of Nate Cordry's character, what's his face? Larry. They get kind of found out, and that's unsatisfying because we don't even see him in the finale. But she admits that she's gay. She comes out as a lesbian, and she's been asked to resign, but she doesn't want to. She vows to fight this on. And interestingly enough, she says that I bet I have enough support in the Democrats, even though she's a Republican. And of course, the political side in the vice president is saying, hey, listen, you cannot side with the team that we have been fighting against for the last X number of years, which again, he's correct. But of course, we also know that he's this like super hardcore religious conservative, and he of course would want to be the president, and he doesn't want to continue this NASA folly that he calls it, or this boondoggle. And it felt unsatisfying to see her basically end up walking into Pam's apartment at the end of the episode, and that's kind of it.
You're right. Can I make a statement? I'm going to make a statement. Yeah, it's going to be, I'm just going to make a statement, and you tell me if this is nonsense or not. They have really diminished women, particularly Ellen, in this episode.
How so?
I say that because it's forward thinking to make Ellen the first female president in U.S. history, right? But they make her the weakest president, who's hiding her sexuality, who's got a husband who's cheating on her, who's still in love with her old girlfriend from 20 years ago, even though she's got a husband and she's the president and she's got 2 kids. That I feel like they've really, really just made her weak. There's so many other ways. She could have thrown Larry under the bus, right? And he's just the equivalent to the first lady, right? No one was accusing her of doing anything wrong. Okay, she did something great by sticking up for, homosexuals. Very, very admirable. She should have done that a long time ago, and she didn't have to. First of all, to say I'm a lesbian is not wrong. It's not a lie. I mean, you can be a lesbian and still be married to a man, right? I mean, that's personal business. I don't know why they weakened her so much, but you nailed it exactly on the head. For me, there was a calamity at NASA, and instead of her rallying the country, the world around her in this cause, and really demonstrating being a leader that could have like overcome all this other like nonsense sexuality politics. She doesn't even appear at that vigil at all. She doesn't appear at the Johnson Space Center at all. She doesn't address it at all. Instead, we see her in the middle of the day, ho-hum, getting her whole caravan of Secret Service agents to drive to her girlfriend's house and, just chatty. Hey, what's going on now? Where should we go from here? I don't know. How about if I come in and we'll figure it out? They just really diminished, I feel, her as a character and women in this episode. Super, super disappointing.
I'm not 100% sure I'm with you on the diminishing her.
Too hot of a hot take.
Women. No, I think the hot take is, I think it's a lukewarm take in the sense that I fully agree with you in the sense that a character who has been relatively noble throughout all 3 seasons, a character who's been very strong throughout all 3 seasons, all of a sudden kind of shirks her duties and responsibilities so that she can spend an afternoon with her girlfriend or soon to be re-girlfriend, whatever their relationship is. We don't know. And it's very vague. It doesn't tell us what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. We don't know anything. And I think, again, they did this primarily so they could save her conclusion for that montage that we're inevitably going to get at the beginning of season 4. Which I think is not the right decision to make.
No.
I think she should have said, or what maybe would have been better is if she were at Pam's house when the Johnson Space Center blows up.
I gotta go.
And then she says, I have to go. And she says, come with me.
Better.
And then she says, you come with me to Pam. Rather than, before where she was like, I'm going to hide this. You have to stay back in the bar. You have to go back home. She says, come with me.
That's
and
good.
They both go together.
That's
and
good.
Then they say, listen, this has nothing to do with the fact that I'm gay. This has nothing to do with the fact that I like women and not men. That's irrelevant at this stage. Terrorism is terrorism. Sexuality is sexuality. Those two things they're not involved with each other. So when I come here, I'm coming here to comfort the nation as the president, not as a gay woman. Yeah. Right? And that would have allowed her to make a stance both ways. A, as the president, and B, as someone who's sticking by her beliefs as this is who I am, like it or lump it. And then that would have kind of then set up that precedent, or not precedent, that would have set up the storyline to if she gets impeached and kicked out, they would have been like, how could she bring her girlfriend? Not even divorced yet. This is a travesty for American politics.
Yes.
Or then she's like, the Democrats kind of take her into their own wing and be like, look at how brave she is in this time of great national tragedy. She has come in and she has said, to hell with politics. I'm here to save the day and I'm here to provide support in whatever way I can. Then maybe she changes parties. It becomes a crazy thing, right?
First of all, brilliant. But what you described reminds me so much of, remember the show The West Wing with Martin Sheen?
Yeah.
As the President Bartlett? There was a season finale once where, remember, he hides that he's got multiple sclerosis, MS,
yes,
right?
Or something similar to that. That's right.
He hides that from the nation, and then it's disclosed, and there's a whole other thing. Should you step down? You lied to everyone, impeachment, blah, blah, blah. And then he has like this season-ending speech where he talks about all these things.
Right.
Remember, it was when his secretary died, and he was like...
Yep. He's at the cathedral, and he's kind of like cursing out God. Yes.
And that was very powerful, and I absolutely agree that they really made Ellen weak. It would have been much better the way you described it. She's visiting Pam. God knows where she's got the time under these circumstances to be kind of finding a new girlfriend. But put that aside. She says, I've got to go. Pam's like, of course you do. And she's like, come with me. And she gives this very, very passionate speech. And I agree. Maybe a Democrat comes up to her and says, we need more of that in our party. And it sets the tone exactly for what you said.
We want you to stay on as president, and we will fight. It doesn't matter if you get impeached. That's just a notation on your scorecard. We are going to keep you as president.
She switches parties, and then she runs for re-election against her old VP. That's a good storyline.
And then that allows her, then her agenda becomes, I'm a Democrat. I'm not just fighting for gay rights. I'm also fighting for the NASA program as my platform.
Yes, way better.
Whereas this becomes season 4's political plotline, which is then her VP is like, well, I'm a hardcore Christian conservative. And I believe in fiscal conservative. And that's why I want NASA to go down. And I also believe in familial conservative. That's why we're going to bring Ellen down. Fine. Much better. Much stronger.
Yeah, I just felt like that last scene with Pam. I mean, I didn't find Pam amazing to begin with, but I have to say, dude, you and I both had like a million girlfriends in our lives. To go back to someone that you haven't
so much for that.
to go back to someone that you haven't spoken to, seen to in 20 years, that's a different life. Now you're the president of the United States. Like, you're emotionally a different person, right? It's just silly that you knock on someone's door like, hey, we still had that chemistry 20 years ago. Not sure what you're up to. Maybe you're dating someone. I'm the most powerful woman in the world. All eyes are on me to be not only to honor my vows to my husband, whatever problems he may be having. I've got a family. What is she thinking that she's going to do? Divorce Larry, start dating a woman. Forget all the stuff that creates drama politically, right? She's also got 2 kids now. They've got a family. It doesn't make sense to split up the family and tell the kids, hey, look, kids, mommy and daddy have to tell you something. Don't get mad. Dad's actually gay. Mom's a lesbian. Doesn't stop there. We're going to get divorced. And now mom's going to live with her new girlfriend. I mean, like, come on. That's just nonsense, right?
Yeah, they've overly simplified an issue which I don't think they've maybe fully thought through.
Yeah. She should have stuck up for the astronaut at the beginning, right? She should have stuck up for the gay astronaut. If Larry would have been found out as gay, she should have stuck up for him as well and cut him loose, but there's no reason for her to just...
Or go the exact opposite and double down. One or the other. This is the thing I think you and I are agreeing on, which is to say, and like Dev, find a characteristic and stick to it. Don't flip around. And if you either be all good or all bad, I think I agree there are some times that you need characters who are in the gray or who are neutral. Yeah. But you have the president of the United States. Yeah. And when you have these people who are meant to be charismatic one way or another, you need to double down on something.
I agree.
And which is... since she had gone that route of saying, hey, I'm going to condemn this gay astronaut on Mars, he lied to us, I thought that would have been brilliant is if she doubles down and goes the hardcore conservative route.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it comes out that she's gay and she's fighting for her political life. That's different. She was wishy-washy this entire time. And then she awards this guy the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which again... To be fair and to be honest, who are you kidding me? You're giving this guy the Presidential Medal of Freedom because he's gay. It's a bit disingenuous. It's also like a bit insulting to the people who actually deserve the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Yeah. I'm not saying he doesn't, but just because you're gay, that doesn't mean you should get an award for it either.
Yeah. I think the disconnect I'm having is that I feel like this show wants to empower women. But this storyline with Ellen really bothers me because I feel like this is demonstrating everyone's worst impulses about a female president. Instead of being strong, she's getting whipsawed by her vice president. She can't pass the jobs bill that she wants. Oh, her husband's cheating on her. I mean, that's kind of the most humiliating thing that could happen to a professional woman, right? Doesn't matter if Larry's gay or not gay. If it was heterosexual or homosexual, he had to cheat on her. That diminishes her, right? The whole thing, she should have just been like, hey, we've got some problems in our marriage, just like a lot of other people do. We're not immune to that. We'll solve it internally, but let's make no mistake. I'm the president, not him. I've done nothing wrong. Like, stop bringing my personal business into this. She should have just, like, stuck up for him, Yep. She should have been a very shrewd, hardcore, acting presidential. And that's where
and it's interesting because it was Larry who was the one who committed perjury.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
I, at the end of the day, she did nothing wrong in that regard.
I agree. So I'm really disappointed because I like her and I really want her to be a very good, strong president. But I feel like the storyline is just weakening her for really no reason.
I get that.
Let's see. But I loved your idea. I wish it would have been, she would have given this very passionate speech at the end. And I wish then there would have been a clue that she was going to switch parties, become a Democrat, run as a Democrat against the, her former VP. That would be cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's still time for it, but I think they've robbed Ellen, or Jodie Balfour in this case. They've robbed Jodie Balfour of that Martin Sheen moment.
I agree.
Because they kind of gave it to her in episode 8, right? When she gives that speech, or in episode 9. They kind of gave it, and that was an excellent speech, don't get me wrong, but I think it would have been far more impactful at the end of the season, and if she had kind of laid it out to bear for it to play in the off season.
But that season 8, that's a personal speech. Right? This one that if she would have made at the end would have been a presidential speech. This is this is a career maker. Like whenever when Martin Sheen gets his award for the lifetime achievement, they'll play that speech. If I were Jodie Balfour, I'd be really upset that they took away her moment that she should have been given. She should have been in a hard hat or whatever. Just like, remember 9/11, George Bush standing on the car with the megaphone. That could have been her standing on all that carnage, like that site, saying, hey, I can hear you. Can you hear me? She could have given like this really passionate, hard hat speech wearing jeans or polo shirt or something, and everyone could have been
on top of that car that exploded in front of the exploded. Right? It would have been such a powerful visual.
That's how you empower a woman and give her that role. Where she's standing on a blown up car, telling people, "Don't worry, we'll build NASA back better." And if that's
and
not
I'm
the
here,
start,
and I will do everything I can to fight for you.
Exactly. That would have been like, bring me to tears. Like, that's how you would have empowered a woman.
And it would have put the Republican Party on their back foot.
Yes.
Because then what would have happened is to say, hey, listen, I will fight for America.
Yes.
I will fight for the people.
Yes.
And I don't care what obstacles the other senators, even within my own party, have.
Yes.
And that allows her to kind of slap them down in a moment where they really can't come back to her after that, right? Because how do you come back and say to the president, oh, well, I didn't do anything, you're being a jerk, when she's the one kind of trying to help the American people kind of recover from such a disaster?
I really hope that she had fought for that, because and then they said, well, instead we think we're just going to put you at Pam's front door, and Pam's going to have like some kind of cardigan on, and you guys can just
some snarky comment.
Yeah.
What do we do from here? I don't know.
Pretend it's like a first date. If you're like, no thanks. Can you please give me the scene at the, anyway. So that takes us into NASA.
Unsatisfying. And satisfying.
So we lost 2, we thought 3, but we lost 2 people. How do you feel about the death of Karen?
I have never been Karen's #1 fan. In fact, I've probably
Are you sure? Can we look back at past episodes and get some confirmation of that? I don't know.
Yeah. But I have to say, I didn't want her to die either.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really... And this is going to sound really cruel, and this is going to confirm how much I dislike Karen, but I thought that was the easy way out for her.
How did you feel about her death, though? Like, was it powerful? Like, was it tragic? How did you feel about the death itself? Not
so the death,
the decision, but the fact that she died. How did you like how it went down?
So the death itself, for me, I didn't think it was super powerful until you see the kid stand over her and realize what he's done.
And hold her hand, yeah.
Right? When that happens,
Yeah.
that's when you realize that, it's a pretty powerful moment that he has caused.
Yeah.
So I guess in that respect, that was the powerful aspect. But in terms of Karen's death overall, I was not satisfied because, again, I thought that was the easy way for her to get away with everything. And that should tell you how I feel about Karen's character arc, which is to say, she seems to have gotten away with whatever she wanted to do with no consequence. And death kind of releases her or absolves her from her lessons, I guess.
You're just so unsympathetic to her. Someone who's lost her son, who lost her second husband.
But think about it. How did she lose her son? By being a bad mom. She came off as a really horrendous mom in that episode.
Yeah.
She cheats on her husband.
I think that's the tragedy, though, of Shane dying is that, and that's like every parent's probably nightmare, to be honest, is that they have that one day when they probably unjustifiably lose their temper. Yeah. Right? And that's the last time they see theirs, and they're just consumed by the grief, right? That overall she was not a bad mom or a bad parent or a bad wife. That day she definitely lost her temper a little bit. And I thought that was just a tremendous loss for her because of that, you know? And that's tough, I can see.
Oh yeah, of course.
But I know that Karen wasn't your favorite. I have to say, I'm disappointed for her to go, but I look at it more on Ed's character arc than hers, because I agree her story has been played out a little bit, and I think that it was a very good story. For Ed, if you just look at the tragedy that he's had, he's definitely the old, he's the fighter pilot. He's Tom Cruise, he just can't die. He keeps walking away from crash after crash, right? He lost his son. He lost Gordo, right? He's put up with so many problems at NASA where they tried to replace him. They called him too old. He had the issue with the Dragon nuclear missile that he shot down, right? He was stuck at Jamestown where, the Russians were kind of like, he thought
toying
that they were
with his emotions.
Toying with his emotions. He's been through so much, and now, even though Karen was his former partner, they had a pretty good relationship. They, raised Kelly, although that's a separate issue. But I thought that the death of Karen was more of an issue for Ed, and just shows how much tragedy, he's kind of suffered in the course of his life. I thought that the way Karen died was pretty dignified. Probably a good scene for her, you know.
Yeah. It's a little, and I think it was also a little unsatisfactory for me because she finally embraces who she really is, right? As Molly calls her a selfish prick. Yeah. And she said there's nothing wrong with being that. I think you've always tried to hide it, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And she finally embraces it. She has her standoff with Dev. She beats Dev at his own game effectively. Yeah. And then for her to die, I didn't see it coming that way.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. But I guess it makes a lot of sense kind of going into season 4. I have to say, I'm sad to see her go because I really like her, mostly because she's pretty. But I'm sad to see her go, but I thought that it went in a good way. The one I'm more frustrated about is Molly. Was for two
horrible.
Reasons. For one, they after ignoring her for episodes, right? They just drag her out, and even though I don't think that there's any bigger Molly fans than you and I, right? But just practically, hey, Molly, you've been a blind retired astronaut, just smoking pot and painting for the last, year or so? Now we've got this supercritical mission. We need you to come to NASA and advise us on it. What? Yeah. You're out of the gate.
But the justification was fair enough. She's the only one who had done that kind of maneuver, right? When she ends up stranded off of the ship in season 2.
Yeah, it just seemed...
That's the only reasonable way to bring her back. Yeah. I have to say, even though I'm very upset that she died, and that too off screen.
How did she die?
That's the thing. We don't know. She just got succumbed to her injuries, is what they say, right? But I like that she's literally the blind woman leading people to their safety.
I thought that was amazing.
I thought that was wonderful because she's like, listen, you guys can't see. Yep. I've had more experience not seeing.
25
I know this
steps
building,
to the,
and I know this building better than anybody else. I'm going to get you out here. And she does. And I thought that was so wonderful.
But I don't understand. I thought that was great, but I don't see why she died. There wasn't like a second blast. They didn't say it would have been better if she would have gone into like the burning building and it would have collapsed on her and you would have seen it like a second collapse. That would have been powerful, right? And you watch she went in 2-3 times, helping people out, and then it collapsed on her when she went back in again. That's good. Yeah, but just because you watched her walk down the hallway, there was nothing really wrong, right?
Yeah. I think they did it for practical reasons, because she's in Night Sky. She's got a prominent role in that. So she was just like, listen, you got to write me off of one of these shows.
But she was already stick out. Me around. Yeah, she was already out.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know. But then it would have been something that you and I would have discussed going forward, right? Like we'd always be like, why isn't Molly here? Or because as we've always been pointing out, I think she should have become the next NASA director.
I agree.
This eliminates her from contention.
If she's going to die, I kind of wanted to see her going in and seeing something collapse. And it would have been like, no way. Really?
Yeah,
but just to see it like dramatic,
but I think this was also a good way for her because she died saving people and she died off screen. So we're spared that indignity of seeing her dying. Yeah.
Anyway,
but again, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
It was just a newspaper article.
Exactly.
Exactly.
What I think would have been better is if they didn't show us that newspaper article and then at the beginning of season 4, we find out that she died in between.
Yes.
And that they had renamed the building in her honor.
Yeah. Should we talk about Jimmy? Is there really much to say? I mean...
well, he's definitely... So I hope they don't make this a lingering plot thread for season 4. I hope this is something they kind of do in the first few episodes or even in the montage. Yeah. I hope they get him and they get the group and then that's it. We're done with him because I've not liked him at all in this season. I thought
the group is dead though. The group is presumably dead, right?
Yeah, presumably, but we didn't see any dead bodies and like the guy who let's put it this way. The guy who set the bomb off, we don't know what happened to the girl. We don't know what happened to the guy. We don't know anything.
I mean,
Jimmy's got to go.
Do you think they're going to bring him back and he's going to get his act together and he's going to be a hero now?
No. At this point, you can't. How do you walk back from being a terrorist? Whether he wanted that to happen or not is irrelevant. He is a terrorist. He blew up the building. Or he played a part in blowing up the building. Yeah. He got them all the things they needed. He got them the access they needed. He did everything.
It's really disappointing, those two kids, huh?
So if Tracy and Gordo had just used protection, we'd be spared this stupidity.
Actually, this is a show about the kids. Between Danny, between Kelly, between Jimmy, every kid
all
that
of them
ends in
have
a
been
Y,
terrible.
Yeah, they've been really miserable offspring. Yeah,
terrible.
Thank God, Molly doesn't have any kids. And now we get to Margo, who.
Oh God.
You want to? So we can't talk about Margo without talking about Alita, right?
We ended the last episode with her kind of having a meltdown about this investigation, and now all of a sudden she's fine with it.
Yeah.
And this is what bothers me. How is it possible that the Russians have so many assets in so many different places, but the U.S. don't have any assets in any of the Russian places?
We got someone at DOJ. How is it possible
that the KGB has someone in the DOJ? Right, we've got someone in the FBI. We've got people in NASA. We've got people everywhere, but you guys don't have any idea what's going on with us.
So let's just break it down and let's explain why we're so unhappy with it, right? So Alita, who is obsessed with understanding who's given the engine designs to the Russians, identifies it's Margo, goes to Bill and says, "Hey, I know I'm right, but please, just for sanity checks, this is so serious. Tell me, am I getting anything wrong? Bill says, you're 100% right. We got to go to the FBI. Alita says, no, that's serious, right? Which is problem number one, right? FBI is not nice people. I can't go to them. So she's identified this huge problem, but she doesn't want to do anything about it. Bill says, too late, I'm going to the FBI. Alita says to the FBI, no way, you're bad people. I'm not cooperating at all, which undermines the whole thing that she's been obsessed about forever. Then the FBI apparently is conducting an investigation of Margo. They're going to make an arrest. And her Russian counterpart says to Margo, hey, Margo, you're being investigated. And apparently they have an off-screen conversation about how Russia can get Margo out. Why? This would have made sense a long time ago, before there was an investigation, that maybe Russia would say, we don't want someone to know that there's espionage, that we stole the designs, right? Now that the FBI knows, if they get Margo out, Russia's reputation isn't saved. There's obviously been an investigation. If Margo leaves, she's guilty for sure, and she's never coming back, right?
She can't.
So I'm not sure why Russia wants to help her, or I guess they just want her knowledge, and they say, hey...
They want the asset. They want the knowledge, right?
Okay, and Margo's like, hey, I'm going to go to jail. I might as well take the deal, right?
Yep. And this is exactly what you and I have been predicting for the last 5 weeks, which is she has to defect, and that's effectively what she's done, is she has defected.
So Alita thinks that she's dead, though.
That's right. I think most people think she's dead.
Yeah.
I, for a second, thought she was dead until that final scene where the Radiohead song was playing.
I thought she was dead, and I was hoping that when her office collapsed, that her grand piano fell exactly on her face and smashed her. And that's what you get for being an executive with a bloody piano in your office.
I thought you were going to go with the Wizard of Oz reference with the feet sticking out of the bottom of the piano.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Bugs Bunny style, right? The piano, and you just see the keys. And so I was not terribly impressed, though, with how it happened, where Alita just kind of walks in. I thought it was powerful to see that whole side of the building shaved off. Yeah. But I thought Alita's reaction was just pretty I don't know. I didn't really get a lot from Alita's reaction. I think it was supposed to be a very dramatic moment, but I didn't feel like Alita did anything. Again, because Alita's so wishy-washy in this whole thing. She's always been the hard ass, not compromising, never takes crap from anybody, right? Remember, she used to make fun of Bill. Yep. She was so difficult, even with Margo. Margo was having problems controlling her. Then she doesn't listen to Margo. She's like, I've got to find out who gave away these designs. She's like the tough, again, this is the problem, I think, with these women characters. Alita's supposed to be tough, non-compromising, doesn't take crap from anybody. But then Margo somehow kind of softens her up, says, hey, we'll talk about this later. And then she goes into Margo's office, and then she's just like totally like, what? Sad, shocked, surprised. Not really clear. And then, we flash forward and we find out Margo's still alive. Somehow has been siphoned
away by the Russians
to Moscow. So presumably the FBI still has her as a wanted person. I mean, the investigation obviously identifies that Margo has given away the secrets.
Yeah.
So she's not on good terms, even if her whereabouts are known. But I imagine that they're keeping her underground.
But for how long? You know that it's going to come into play for next season.
Yeah.
It has to. There's no point in it. And I think it becomes an interesting parallel, because her mentor worked on the Oppenheimer project, or Manhattan Project.
I agree.
And he was roundly seen as a bad guy. Yes. And now she's falling under the exact same trap.
Yeah, you're right. It's very circular. So who's going to be the next head of NASA? Let's place our bets.
I think it's going to be Alita. I think it's going to be Alita, unless through some hilarious circumstances it's Dev.
How do you feel about Alita?
Again, I think you're absolutely right the problem, and this is maybe not a problem with the women characters. I think this is just a problem with most of the characters right now. They're neither here nor there, and they should be, whether, if you're going to be a hard ass all the way out.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a softie the whole way out. If you're going to be a good guy, be a good guy, be a bad guy, be a bad guy. Whatever it is.
I agree.
And I think they're not consistent in their portrayals of people's personality.
I agree.
The only one who I think has been relatively consistent has been Ed. You could have reinforced that consistency had he had an issue with Kelly, and then they resolved that issue as we talked about earlier. I think that would have just doubled down on that, and I think that would have made for a much stronger characterization of Ed, because he's saying, look, I know I'm a hard ass, but you're my daughter, I love you, and I'm a softie for you. I think that would have been wonderful.
Yeah.
But everybody else, I don't know, they're neither here nor there. Like the same thing happened with Danny, the abrupt turn. He was the good guy who turned into the bad guy, who's now, again, the good guy who gets exiled to North Korean jail. Like, what's going on with him?
I agree.
He's the turns aren't complete.
I would have been happy if Alita would have been the person who, after she spoke to Bill, she turned in Margo and she was cooperating with the FBI. And then she went to Margo and said, I know what you did. I'm taking you down. And Margo's like, I don't know what you think you know, but you don't know anything. And you should remember that I brought you here and you'd be nothing without me. I would have liked Alita to be that tough guy, tough girl. And then Margo, what you did was wrong. I'm taking you down.
And then she's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, don't you just know, Comrade?
Exactly.
Or something like that.
Exactly.
That would have been exactly in line with
Yes. And then if you'd make Alita the new head of NASA, then you could show, okay, the office is destroyed. But another kind of montage would have been, Alita runs a tighter NASA, right?
You show she doubles down on security.
Yes, right? You see the grand piano being carted out. The record player out, all those bottles of scotch out, right?
Yep.
You see,
she's working with the FBI to go through all the buildings to see if there are any listening devices. And that's when we learned that, oh my God, there's 30 Russian devices here, blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Yes. You could even show a bunch of people kind of at their desks being escorted out, handcuffed, walking out with boxes. And Alita's like, look, we're tightening up. We've got 9 people stranded on Mars. It's not a joke anymore. I need people who are fully committed to this and nothing but this,
I'm cleaning house.
Right. She's forsaken her husband. She's forsaken her father. She's given up everything, right? She didn't take another job, even though it would have doubled her salary. So that's why this thing with Margo is so annoying to me, is that it's the one instance where she did not act consistent with her personality, but I know they can't clean it up now because the office is a disaster, but for me, that would have been a super powerful montage to show how she's changing everything, taking down all these superfluous, vanity things that Margo put in place and said, hey, tighter ship,
Yeah.
I'm not sitting in this office with my secretary taking memos in the morning while I play my piano. I'm going to sit in the middle of the engineer's room. Here's my desk. We're all working together. We got 18 months. They're going to run out of food. We got to go get these people. If you're not committed 24 hours a day, I don't want you here.
Yeah. Oh, man. And then maybe Sergei is the government's trying to get Sergei to come into NASA, and she's not having anything with it. She's like, I don't trust this guy.
Yep.
We don't know what happened. We don't know if she's colluded with Sergei, whether Sergei and Margo were in on it together. I want nothing to do with him. She puts her foot down, and maybe that's why he ends up at Helios.
Yes. Yeah. He comes to visit her. And she meets him at reception, said, you're not welcome here.
You're not welcome.
And he's like, oh, here's a gift. I heard you like music or this. And she's like, keep it. I don't want your gift. I don't want anything to do with you. Things
or
have
she
changed.
makes a show of throwing it in the dustbin then and there.
Yeah.
Right? So she's just like, listen, I want nothing to do with the old guard. You guys are all a bunch of crooks. You're all a bunch of liars. Get out.
Yes. That's right. If Alita would do that, I would be entirely supportive of her. Yeah. But the fact that she did not She wavered when the FBI was brought in. I thought was really inconsistent and disappointing behavior.
Yeah. All of these things, I think, come down to inconsistencies in characterization or in personality.
Yeah.
The same, with Ellen Waverly, with Alita, with all of these guys. Anytime we see these guys, I don't care if they're good guys or bad guys. I have no problem. Look, I just don't like this wishy-washiness.
I agree. So that's all I've got to say about NASA. What about you?
I think that's it for me as well. I'm very, 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 overall, I'm quite excited with how the season ended. I think there was a period of maybe 3 or 4 episodes in the middle of the season that were kind of almost like filler and exposition heavy and setup episodes. But I think that the season ended with a bang, literally. And I'm really excited to see where it goes in season 4.
When is season 4 coming out? Do we have like 12 months? 18 months?
Probably a year. At best, 2023 summer, but I don't think it'll be that early. I think it'll be later.
If I have to name my favorite people in the show, I have to say Danielle has really won me over.
Yep.
For her leadership and getting like drama-free leadership and getting everyone else on the same page. And
consistency. She's
yes.
And throughout, and not just through season 3, by the way. She's been like this since she was introduced in season 1.
Yeah. I like Bill, and I wouldn't mind him having a bigger role.
Oh, yeah.
Alita could win me over if she'd do what I tell her to do. Yeah. And I like Ed, he's my special dumpling. Hate Margo, disappointed with Ellen, and Danny and Kelly. I hope those two just.
Do you hate Margo because of her character or because of the way she's playing her character? Like, I hated Karen because of her character, not because of the actor playing her. You know what I mean? Like,
I think I think the actress Ren Schmidt plays that character perfectly.
Yeah.
Why I'm disappointed with her, and again, this goes back to the same criticism I have, and unfortunately, it's because of the women who I want to be so supportive of. Margo starts as a very sympathetic character. When we see her in episode 1, she is smart. She is driven. We see her sleeping in her office. Right? She is
that little cubicle that she had, literally.
She is the underdog we all want to support. We want her to be rewarded. She finally pulls a little bit of a power play to get a seat at the table. And it's so cliche and disappointing that it's the man who manipulates her with a little bit of affection. Remember, she even says, "You're going to kiss me." Like, no one talks like that. And it's so, right? No one, dude, no one's ever said that to me. Like, it doesn't happen like that. And I'm just so disappointed that this character that we should be, she's kind of awkward, right? No one's ever convinced her of being hip. Apart from jazz, she has no real hobby. She's not funny. She's not anything. But she's turned into this monster who is easily manipulated by the one dude who's even given her half a second of time. She's willing to undermine her career, her country, the agency she worked so hard to be the leader of. For what? She wasn't even having an affair with the dude. It's so disappointing to me that that character's thrown away everything for nothing. For nothing. Right? And still, even more is that she wasn't still this hard-working underdog. Then she began working in this palatial office. Her assistant would come in and give her updates while she's playing on her grand piano, listening to jazz music. She just started to live like this unchecked oligarch, right? Without any consequences. That's why I don't like Margo as the character. I think the actress who plays her does it impeccably. Could not be better. But Margo, I want to like. I want to feel that she's the underdog. I want her to be working so hard and fixing all these disasters at NASA. And, the U.S. Congress is still not approving her budget, or they're still, getting on her for all these KPIs that she can't possibly meet. And she's like, man, I'm doing everything. Look what I've built. And still I'm not getting any respect. That's the character they want to cheer for. This oligarch falling for a man is just not cool, to be honest. It's not cool.
Yeah. I hope she doubles down.
Yeah.
I hope she takes the villainous turn and really doubles down.
Yeah, I think I may like her more as the villain, but I think the whole thing, or honestly, I'd feel a little bit better about this as well if Margo made one mistake. Sergei manipulated her, and she made one mistake. Just once, she let him look at some documents, or he said, hey, our lives are at risk. I can't let them launch this. The engines are going to explode. Please help me. Don't let, lives be lost. And she just would have been manipulated, and she was kind of trying to do the right thing. And it happened just once. And she was paying the price for that one slip in judgment. But instead, it wasn't that. It was this recurring mistake, this recurring intentional sequence of events. And it was all done just because she had a thing for Sergei, who was married. And it was just a man who gave her a little bit of attention, right? Not cool.
Awesome. So that is our take on season 3. I was worried for a few minutes, but I loved it. I thought season 3 was excellent. I'm not sure. I still think season 2's ending was probably a bit more dramatic, but only because how do you top Tracy and Gordon running through the room?
Man.
Duct taped?
Yeah. Forever the best, I think, ending. Although this one could have been, again, if we would have had, I think, the Ed Kelly departure, and I think overlaid by perhaps, like a speech by Ellen at the Ground Zero site. I think those two things potentially could have put it over the top.
Absolutely. But anyway, that's where I am on season 3. And if you haven't figured it out, it is a must subscribe. And now you've got time. If you haven't been watching For All Mankind, I would go back. You've got plenty of time now until season 4. I'm not sure what we're going to do. Maybe we'll go in cryo state for a while. But now is the time to go back and watch all 3 episodes. It's absolutely worth your time. And for me, it's the best show on television because there's so many storylines, that play out kind of contemporaneously, and they all kind of dovetail into each other. And with that,
what can I say, Pete? It's been a great journey. 3 seasons. Looking forward to season 4.
What a wonderful 10 weeks.
Thank you, dear listeners. Join us next time. We've got more episodes of Stream or Skip coming up. And I think we're also going to do a recap of Sandman on Netflix.
That's right. All right, everybody. Until next time.
Have a great day, Pete.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.